so much for coming back and watching another one of my videos. My name is Khandy. If this is your first time watching, hi and welcome to my channel. If you are a regular viewer and a subscriber, thank you so much for watching. I know I've been gone for a little while. My family and I, we've been traveling. We've had things going on. We'll make videos about it, but we are here today and I'm so happy because we have a very special guest with a very special story. This is Sybil. So I'm going to have Sybil introduce herself and then we are going to jump into her story. So Sybil, take it away.
Hi, Khandy. Thank you so much for having me on your channel today. Like she said, my name is Sybil Tipton. I've been married for just a little over 2 years now to my husband, David. And
Congratulations.
thank you. We are both originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but we live in a little north of Dallas, Texas now. And we have a 7-year-old from my husband's previous marriage. And then, as you said, we just adopted the perfect little baby boy. And so I'm excited to tell you all about that.
Nice. So Sybil and her husband, we're going to get into the questions, but they literally she, not they, it's always one of us that pop up onto the scene that represent the crew. They popped up onto the scene and I remember it was she popped up asking a bunch of questions and then she was on my YouTube asking questions. And then I felt like I saw her profile, which was beautiful, aesthetically beautiful. And then it was in 3 hours she had a baby and I was like, is this the same Sybil? You have to go look at the history of the post. And so we're going to get into it. So Sybil, my interviews, I like to keep it transparent so people feel, as though they can relate to my viewers. So what led you and your husband to adoption in the first place?
Well, it's funny. Long time ago, I actually worked at a group home and I volunteered there. And so I just fell in love with the kids there. So I always knew that adoption was something that I wanted to do. And then my husband actually has a family member who was adopted. So he's always been open to it. And but I guess what really led us to it is that I'm 40. Well, we got married when I was 44. Okay. We got pregnant. And then we lost that one very early. So, people even call it chemical pregnancy. I always like to joke it was the best 12 days of my life. And so, and then we tried again for 2 more years and it didn't happen. And then my husband got some new benefits at work. And so we tried, IVF a couple times. One, we actually did IVF. We got all the way to an embryo, but it tested abnormally. And then we did it again and ended up doing IUI. It didn't work. After that, I was just like, honey, I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, the shots and all of that, it was just too much. And I was like, we've always talked about adoption, so let's just do it now. And so he was kind of like, whoa, he sprung this on me, and he's like, I'm gonna need some time to think about it. And I said, yeah, I know you need some time to think about it. And then that was on a Friday, and on that Monday, he was like, let's do it. And so we just jumped both feet into it, and yeah, like you said, 77 days later, we had a baby.
Okay, so you went through a fertility journey that was bumpy.
Yes.
I did the same. But like you, before I knew that I was going to have any issues conceiving naturally, I knew that adoption was in our plan. I had no idea what adoption really entailed. I didn't know about a home study. I knew nothing. I just knew I was going to adopt somebody's baby. And, but when it did actually come to the forefront and we said we were going to do this, it was one of those things okay, well, what is really the process? So when you decided, okay, we were going to adopt, were you nervous and did you have any fears or hesitations leading into the journey?
Well, I got to be honest and shameless plug here, but I didn't know anything. So I started Googling, I started looking on YouTube. I found your channel and then so I listened and I heard you talk about how, African-American families usually get chosen faster because there's so many African-American babies. And so it kind of gave me hope that it wouldn't take so long and it wouldn't be so, and I was like, and then we kind of became like hashtag baby by Christmas. And so, that was our little joke was baby by Christmas. So it was let's do all the things we need to do. And so we, so Santa could bring us a baby. And so I didn't know anything about the process. And I mean, I heard the word home study. And so I Googled that and how do I get a home study? And I looked up all these agencies and they all said, home study ready, home study approved. And I'm like, well, who actually does the home study. So I searched and I found an agency to do a home study, and that was just kind of how the ball got rolling. I mean, everything that we kind of needed to do needed to go into the home study.
That was the
And so it
first
was
step.
all about getting the home study done. And so we did everything we had to do to get that home study done. And that was really the hard part for us, was getting all that, um, especially since my husband and I both had 10 addresses in the last 10 years. So three of which we shared. So that's like 14 addresses to track down, and
Wow.
background checks. And I want to say, at least I know I had to do 3 states, and then he had to do Texas. And so that was really the hard part, just getting all that done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Gosh.
no, I didn't know anything about the process. I was green as ever.
Trust me. I remember that part. So when you started your home study and you knew that, okay, we're in this, did you speak to both adoption agency and consultants? And did you know that there were both of those entities available to you? And did you know that there was a difference between the two?
No, no. So we actually started out going down the road of some consulting agents and agencies. And it was really, really important to my husband that the mom be taken care of. Like, it was really
Mhm.
important to her that she had counseling, that she had this, that she
Good.
had that. And that was really important to him. And so when we looked into the agency, the consulting agency or marketing firm, whatever you want to call it, and they sent us the contract. Um, as I was getting ready to sign it, I was reading it and I was like, "Honey, I need you to read this." And he was like, "Well, what's it say?" I said, "No, like, this is a good amount of money for you to just sign it. Like, I want you to read it, because all of the things that you're saying that you want, these places don't do. And
Mm.
so, before we invest this money, I need you to be okay with this." And so when we kind of looked at it, he was like, "No, this isn't what I want to do, because I want to make sure that the mom is really taken care of, and that, if we have to, um, I don't give her some resources or make some resources available for her. We want to make sure she's okay." And so then I kind of went back on a search again to find more like a full service type agency.
Okay.
But no, I had no idea that there were even two separate entities, honestly.
Now, the agency that you ended up choosing, what was the deciding factor? Was it how they provided for the expected moms? Was that
It
what?
was how they provided for the expected moms. It was the fact that they were in the state of Texas. So we were almost guaranteed that the mom would be in Texas, because we
Okay.
didn't want to have to do like the interstate
The
thing where we had
ICC.
to
Okay.
go to somewhere and wait. And we were willing to travel, but we're like, if we can, cut that expense
Mhm.
out, then we'll do that. So we chose an agency here. And to be quite honest, it was really just the interaction that we had with that particular agency here in the state. Their responsiveness to us, the way they took our questions, my questions,
Mhm, mhm,
um,
mhm.
and the way they explained things to us, it was just a good fit. We just had a good feeling about them, and so that's why we went forward with the agency we did.
Now, did your home study provider, did that social worker or did your agency provide you with any additional education, any literature that they required you to read or watch, like on just adoption, verbiage, education, different cultures? Like, were you guys only open to African American or were you open to multicultural children? Like, what were you guys open to, and what education did they provide you with? Because I know, and I'm
Yeah.
asking you this because we moved fast. Like, we weren't even home study approved when we got our daughter, and we received nothing. Even though I loved our agency, I think maybe if we would have stayed a little longer, maybe we would have got something, but we don't know because we didn't
Yeah,
get
they actually, part of our approval process was some literature, that it was some links to some stuff you could print out or you could read online, and we had to sign off that we read that, and that
it.
was some education about the process and about all of the things that could happen, how to care for a baby,
Mhm.
things like that, things that would be involved in having an infant. And so yeah, there was a couple different educational documents that we had to read and sign off that we read, and both of us had to sign off that we read them. So I actually had to make my husband read it.
Because they usually just say, "Tell me where to sign. What am I signing? Tell me where to
Right,
sign. What
right.
am I
Like, no, you have to read it so that
Yeah.
you can say you read it.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I
Did they
printed out
go
so he could
over? Go ahead.
read it, and we both read it, and did all that so that we would have that information. Yes.
Good. Did they go over, your options of open, semi-open, closed, and explain what those differences meant to you?
Yes, they
Like,
did
what were they
that,
open
and
to?
at first, I always wanted an open adoption, but at first David wanted a closed adoption, like, he just thought it would be easier for the child to just kinda separate and, from that family and be part of our family, and there would be no question, and there would be no going back and forth, but after they explained that psychologically it's better for the child, for it to be open, for them to know, for it to not be a secret, and then, not, and be able to have contact with the person, that it's actually psychologically and emotionally better for the kid,
Mhm,
then
mhm.
he was open to, whatever the mom was open to. And so
Okay.
we basically chose whatever the mom was open to. But I wanted it to be open because I know that you don't want to just feel like somebody dropped you off and
Forgot about you. Just
didn't
on your
care
own.
anything about you for the rest of your
Mhm,
life. So yeah,
mhm.
so we ended up with an open adoption.
When you had the questions about preferences and exposures, do you feel like they respected your preferences, or do you feel like they tried to um, let's just shoot it straight? I know sometimes when you say I'm not open to a child with XYZ exposures, the professional will come back with a rebuttal as to, well, it won't be that bad in the long run. They may have a short NICU stay, but it's not as bad as XYZ. Do you feel like you encountered that or not at all? Like they just said, okay, if you're not open to it, you're not open to it.
No, the only thing is they asked us, "Are you open to alcohol?" And we were like, "Well, some." And then so it's kind of like either yes or no. And then they like, "Well, are you open to drugs?" And we were like, "Well, I guess it depends on what the drug is." And it was like, "Well, you either say yes or no, but we can kind of bring it to you on a case by case basis, and you can decide." And they
Okay.
were very open to that, and they were
Okay.
very, and they just, and they respected that because the baby we got had no exposure at all to anything.
Okay. Okay. That's with that. They're out there. They're out there.
Well,
Um,
and it was funny because at first we were like, "Yeah, we're fine with alcohol," but then once we started reading about fetal alcohol syndrome, we were like,
mm,
"Maybe we don't want that either."
mhm.
So it was kind of like, I mean, it's like, okay, well, if she had a glass of wine or two, that's fine, but if she has an alcohol problem, we might want to, back up from that.
Mhm.
That was in our
Mhm.
experience, but we didn't encounter that, so we were fortunate.
Yep. Okay, so tell me about the day you received the magic call. What were you doing? Where were you going? What were you wearing? What were you eating? Tell me.
Oh my goodness gracious, Candy. That morning I was in Atlanta and I woke up in Atlanta for a work trip and I was talking to my husband and we do that like every other weekend thing with his first son. And so it was our weekend to not have him. So we're like, hey, we got a Netflix and chill weekend coming. We're going to just be, I had been out of town for a while. So it was like, hey, I can't wait for my wife to get home. I can't wait to be home, all of that kind of talk. We're just having this casual conversation. And so I get up, I go to the airport, and I get an email from the agency. And the title of the email said AA boy born 9/7. And I was like, and I'm like, wait, he's
Child.
already born.
Start child.
And so I opened up the email and it was like, good morning. We have a situation where there's an African American baby boy who was born on 9/7. The mom decided this morning that she wanted to place him. Are you interested? Do you want us to present you to birth mom? And how soon can you get to
Today.
Richardson? And I was like, and let me back up a little bit. So when they asked us about preferences, we said, I wanted a girl, he wanted a boy. So we said we were open, and the joke was, we'll see who God loves more. So right, I know, right? And
David.
so when I called my husband and I said, "Have you checked the email today?" And he said, "No." I said, "You might want to check the email." And he said, "From your tone, it's a girl." And I just laughed. I said, "You might want to check the email." And so he read it and he was like, "Oh, oh." And then he read to the bottom, we're like, how soon can you get to Richardson? And he was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, yeah. And so he was like, well, yeah, we're interested and tell her I can go now. So I responded to the email and I explained that I was in Atlanta. And I said, but my husband can come now. I said, but if you need us together, I'm not going to be able to be there until like 3 because my plane lands at 2, blah, blah, blah. And so I said, but yes, we're interested in present us to mom. Now, at this point, the email actually had an attachment with like a little write up and a picture. I saw none of that. I didn't even know that that was there. All I did was read the
Tunnel
email
vision.
and
Tunnel.
call
What
him.
you want
Yeah.
to say?
Yeah. So I call him and I email the agency back. And so I'm trying to call him. He's not answering his phone. He's trying to call me. And it's like a whole bunch of stuff is going on at the same time. So finally I get on the phone with him and then I get a text. From the text was like, we got him. And I was like, what do you mean? And so I call him back. And when I call, the agency lady was on the phone already. And she's like, well, you know, if you're getting a call from me, that it's good news. And I was like, oh my God. And she was like, and I said, the plane, they literally just closed the door to the plane. So I need like the 30-second version of this because I have to hang up. And she's like, well, we can't wait for you. But so we're going to go ahead and process, you know, all the paperwork with David. And then David's going to go meet the social worker. And I was like, okay. And I was like, that's fine. That it's whatever. Like now I have to get over my feelings because the fact of the matter is this is happening with or without me. So I said, okay. So, you know, I hang up the phone, the plane takes off. As soon as I can, I buy the Wi-Fi, I call him back on the phone. I said, don't you meet that baby without me. Like you go to the hospital, you do what you have to do, you sign what you have to sign, you pay what you have to pay, but don't you meet that baby without me. And so he's like, okay, well, what do I do now? I said, well, you go upstairs and you get that car seat and that blanket and you just go wherever they tell you to go. And so he's like, okay.
Just get the car seat.
Yeah. And I mean, in the middle of this, like we have nothing for this baby, nothing, because, you know, they told us this could happen, but then they also told us it probably would not. So he's like, don't go spending a whole bunch of money on stuff. And, you know, we're going to have, because they told us the mom would probably be 30 to 35 weeks. So he's like, don't go spending a whole bunch of money on stuff that we'll have 3 or 4 weeks to buy. And I'm like, all right, fine. I won't do it. I had an Amazon cart full of stuff, but I didn't push the button on anything. And so we had nothing for this baby. And so I'm like, but a neighbor had given me a car seat. She actually had given me 2 car seats and a changing table. So that's what we had. And the crib from David Jr. And so that's what we had. And so he goes and I fly and I'm talking, you know, the whole time. And he said, well, I'm going to Chili's. And I said, well, what are you doing at Chili's? He said, well, she told me to meet her at Chili's. And
oh,
I said,
okay.
well,
I thought he was going to eat. I said, no,
yeah.
Stop.
I said, you're meeting who at Chili's? And he said, the social worker. I'm meeting the social worker at Chili's. And I said, well, why are you meeting her at Chili's? He's like, I don't know. That's where they told me to go. And I'm like, I'm just not getting enough information. And so finally, he says, I said, okay, well, I guess you're meeting the social worker at Chili's, so you can sign the paperwork. You can do whatever. Then he calls me back. He's like, the mom is at Chili's. What do you mean the mom is at Chili's? The mom is at, well, where's the baby? Well, I guess the baby's at Chili's with the mom. So the long short of it was the mom stayed the night in the hotel. I mean, she stayed the night in the hospital. She stayed the next night in a hotel. She got up the next morning, went to Chili's and called the agency from Chili's. So she just waited at Chili's with the baby.
Everybody has their process.
Yeah. So for the social worker to come, you know, get her. And so he went to Chili's, and by the time they counseled her and made sure she was okay and you know, made sure this was really what she wanted to do, because at that point in the state of Texas, you cannot sign the paperwork for 48 hours. They want to make sure you're not under the influence of drugs, you're not under duress, you're in your right state of mind, you know, whatever. So you cannot sign the paperwork for 48 hours. But once that 48 hours has passed and you sign it, you can't undo it. Right. So at that point, 48 hours had already passed. So if she signed that paperwork, it was done. It was done and done. So they wanted to make sure that she knew what she was doing and she was okay and she knew it couldn't be taken back. And so they did all that. And by that time I had landed. I'm driving like a maniac. And so he said to me, well, they're calling me inside. And so I said, okay, well, I'll be there in 3 minutes. So he went inside and he met the baby probably about 5 minutes before I did. So, I mean, it all worked out, but it was very emotional for that day. And it was like at 10 o'clock in the morning, we were talking about how we were just going to have
Netflix and chilling all weekend.
Yeah, we were all weekend, Netflix. And next thing you know, by 3 o'clock, we were whole parents to a whole baby. So it was pretty exciting.
I love, you know, you'll get a shout out in another video that I'm making. You won't know what I'm talking about, but you'll know when you watch the video. Yeah. This is the beauty of adoption. And this is what I tell people: when you know that you want to start this journey, get your ducks in a row and be ready, because you never know when it's going to happen. You were in an airport. Like, you could have been on a plane and not bought the Wi-Fi and not seen the email. You know what I mean? You could have slept in late. Because if I'm not mistaken, when you and I were messaging back and forth on YouTube, you're one of 2 African-American families in that agency, and she chose you.
Yes,
And
and I think the second one was in Houston though, so they would have had a
your
drive. But yes,
profile, I promise you, your profile, those pictures are so bright and just so vibrant and so pretty. Marquita, my business partner, we talk about that profile like Sybil did that with that profile. And to this day, you still have some people and they're just like, oh, well, I don't really know how, like, the importance of profile holds. And I'm just like, but it does. But it really does. It's the one inside look that a mom has of you and your family. You know what I mean? And again, she may not read any of the verbiage in there, but she's just looking at the photos. And those photos were just so bright and so pretty. You guys look so warm and so welcoming and so happy. And so it's like, when you posted that profile, and I mean, in 3 hours you had that baby, I said, I'm not shocked.
It's so funny because the agency made us do a professional profile book. So they accepted a DIY for us, and I honestly think it's because we were African Americans. So they're like, we're going to let you have this small window where we'll take this one just to put it online, but we're not showing it to birth moms. The professional profile book agency made us do a professional photo shoot. So, I mean, I had all of these things had to come together, and I talked to them on August 1st, and she said, well, I have one opening on August 15th. And we're like, and she said, but I need all of your information by August 15th. Otherwise, I don't have another opening until October. So I was like, I'm like, we could do it. We got this. So I went to my, I have a Bad Moms Facebook group of my local, where we live. And I said, hey, are there any photographers out there? And I need someone to take pictures of us. Like, I need to have them back by August 15th. I said, but here's the plot twist. We're going away from the 5th through the 9th. So I need the photos done like now so that we can have them back so that, And so one of my neighbors came and did it the next day and took those photos that you saw that you like so much. And she took them. And while we were in Mexico, she sent them back to me, and we got them all back to the agency. And we let me go back. We turned in all of our information on August 31st. We went live to where they could show us the birth moms on September 1st. And we brought him home on September 10th. So you're talking about all of the things that had to work together, all of the things that had to be perfectly orchestrated. Because if we would have said, you know what, we can't do all of that by August 15th, we'd have missed that baby because she couldn't have done it until October.
What's meant for you is for you.
Yeah. So
what's meant for you is for you.
Yes.
That baby boy was meant for you. That baby boy was meant for you. So you were live for 9 days.
Yeah. Sometimes I get overwhelmed and I'll start to cry when I think about all of the things that had to go perfectly, or we would have missed him because he was already born. We didn't have that time to get to know the mom, and we didn't have all that. It was like, if we weren't ready, we wouldn't have got him, and we wouldn't have him.
All the stars had to align.
Yes.
Girl. Ooh, child, you are like, I'm going to induct you into something that you don't even know exists. Don't worry.
Yes. I mean, we were literally live for 9 days. And when we turned in that profile book, the professional profile book, the next day we brought him home. So it was like, I always joke with that lady. I'm like, your book worked in less than 24 hours. Like, in less than 24 hours, you got me a baby. So it's pretty amazing the way it all worked out.
What's meant for you is meant for you, and nothing can stop it. You can have disruption after disruption. You can have hiccup after hiccup. You can get scammed. There can be heartache, setback. But when it's your baby, it's your baby.
Right.
When it's your baby, it's your baby. Now, I feel like there's a blueprint to adoption. Like, there are things that you have to do, and there's ways to do it the right way. And I feel like when you do it the right way and you set that base, you have to be prepared for it to come at any time.
Right.
Anytime. Any single time, because that's just the way this works. It's just the way that it works. That was your baby. So for
Mhm.
anyone watching this video that is considering adoption or hesitant to start their journey because they're just like, I don't know if this is going to happen for us. We're not in our 30s. We're not in
Right.
our 20s. I hear that all the time. Can we really do this? Will a mom actually look at us? What advice would you give to them?
I would just tell him, like, if you feel it in your heart to go for it. Because I would tell my husband that. I said, because of course we think we're cute too. So um, I said, but it's not so much about us being cute. Someone might not want to give their baby to 45-year-olds, 46-year-olds. They might want their babies with somebody younger. Somebody might pass us up for that. I said, so we might have to go through a few moms, and we might have to have a few rejections, but this is what we want to do. And like I said, initially I showed him your video, and I said, this lady is saying that it happens for Black people faster. For one time, this is working in our advantage. For one time, being Black is actually
Listen, people, I
an
don't lie in
advantage.
these videos. To take my
Yeah.
word.
And so I said, so it may take us 3 or 4 months, it may take us 6 months, but we just have to know that what's for us is for us, like you said. And we never could have imagined that it happened as fast as it did. I mean, it almost got to the point where we're like, well, maybe we shouldn't tell people because they'll be like, jealous, or they'll be haters, or they'll be like, ours is such a Disneyland story that it's like people be like, well, I thought it was going to happen in 77,
It
in
gives
10
people
days
hope.
for us. And
It gives people hope. It gives
yeah,
people hope. It's setting yourself up the proper way, going with the right professional, all of those type of things. And then doing your part. You made sure that you had that profile set and ready before you left on vacation. You know what
yeah.
I mean? I was also sitting in Mexico for 2 weeks doing a profile. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, you got to get it done. You have to get it
Yep.
done. So what does adoption mean to you?
Um, a second chance, because like I said, it didn't. I have so much love and respect for his birth mother, because I'm like, she did for me what I couldn't do for myself.
Mhm.
And it was so it took so much for her to not choose the alternative and be like, no, I'm going to bring this baby into the world, and there is someone who will love him as much as I would.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that she gave me that second chance. I really do.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't imagine loving him more. I really couldn't. And
Mhm.
every minute that I spend with him, I consider it a privilege and an honor. Even if it's changing his poopy diaper, like I consider it a privilege and an honor, because it gave that adoption gave me the chance to be able to do that for him.
Mhm. Nice.
Yeah.
One last question. Any regrets? Like from start to finish. So from your journey to parenthood to where you are now. So when you guys started your journey to parenthood, IUI, IVFs, to actually finalizing your adoption. Any regrets?
No, because honestly, if I wouldn't have done, the IVF and the IUI, I would still be saying, well, what if we would have done this? Well, what if we would have, what if? And I don't have any of that what if. I mean, I even took my baby back to my doctor, like, hey, we didn't make a baby, but you gave me the peace of mind that I needed to get this one and not feel that I should have done more. I should have done something else. And because I mean, as soon as I walked in, she was kind of like, we might want to do donor eggs. And I was like, well, can we try with my eggs? And she's like, yeah, we could try with your eggs. So even the fact that she let me, try with my own eggs, and it didn't work out, but
Mhm.
at least it's like, hey, I gave, and I could tell people I still work, so it could still maybe happen. I mean, I don't know. I work, my husband works, it could still maybe happen, but if it never does, like, I'm so full. I'm so full.
You have your baby.
Yes, I
You
do.
have your
I
baby.
have, and we brought him home at 2.5 days old. So we've experienced everything that we could have experienced other than like cutting a cord.
Yeah.
So, and it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
story is beautiful. I love a good stork drop. And that's just, but that's naturally my personality. I don't have patience to wait for things.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and then my daughter set us up that way. But I
Right.
love a story like this. It's beautiful. And I feel like it just gives people hope that when you least expect it, your life can change. When you least expect it. You don't have
Yes.
to have the nursery prepared. You don't have to have all the things. You literally need a home study.
Yes.
You need
Yes.
an
Yes.
active home study, and everything else will fall into place. I
And
appreciate
I
Mhm.
will say, because I would be amiss by not saying that, when I told my neighbor friends that we got a baby, because they knew what we were going through.
Mhm.
And when I told them we got a baby, they were all like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was like, "David's on his way to get him right now." They showed up for us. We went from having nothing to
To
having
everything.
what's the Bible say? Blessings that don't have room to receive. I was like, what do we even do with all this stuff?
Mhm.
I mean, I haven't bought a diaper. I haven't bought a wipe. I haven't bought any clothes. We always joke that neighbors drop clothes off on our porch like we're a charity. And I'm like, so, y'all are the real MVPs. So to the way our community rallied around us and rallied around my baby, I can't be more grateful for that as well, because they really set us up for success, with this situation that was just dropped onto us.
Count your blessings. Count your blessings.
Yes. Yes.
Count your blessings. Look at the puppy trying to get comfortable.
There's
He's
him, a
like,
dog in the
"Mommy, if you
background.
don't stop disturbing my nap, please, please, mommy, golly."
Well, it's easier to let them in the room than it is
Oh,
to
I
try to
know
shut
with the
them
scratch
out.
at the door.
Yes, yes,
Yes, and the
yes.
whimpering. Oh, I
Yep,
have my two.
yep. So it's
Mhm.
easier to they'll chill if they're in here with me.
I know.
So
I
yeah.
know it. I know it. But I appreciate you hopping on here and doing this so much, because these are, so many times when you're doing research on adoption, you hear the bad, you hear the sad, and you hear the negative. And I don't like to lead with those stories. I like to lead with the positive. And it's not to say that these things are out of anybody's reach. You know what I mean? But these things are reality. But then when you hear stories like the mine and the yours, sometimes not sometimes, a lot of times they don't get shared. So people don't even know that this is the reality for a lot of people,
Right,
that
right.
this happens. So it's like, you do need to share the bad, but you also need to share the good. You need to share the good. So it's like people know what to expect on all spectrums of this journey. And so I appreciate you coming on here and sharing this, and continue to love on that little boy, because man, he's going to be walking and running and in soccer soon, and you won't be able to
Yes.
keep him still. So just love on him because they grow so, 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 so fast.
Yeah,
So,
it's
so,
funny.
so, so
The
fast.
lady at the daycare was like, "Well, he doesn't really do well. Like if we just lay him down in the crib, like he likes to be rocked." And I was like,
Hmm. I rock
"That's
him.
a you, that's a you problem, because he's it for me. So I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
rock him. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
I'm sorry.
I rock him. It's my
Yeah,
baby.
yeah,
No,
absolutely. Yes,
I completely get it. But everyone, I hope you listening and hearing Sybil's story has, left you with some type of excitement and encouragement that you don't, we're not leading with you have to be African American for this to happen to you. We're leading with you have to have your ducks in a row. You need to
hmm,
have your profile book ready and updated and aesthetically appealing. And I'm being so honest when I say this to you. A mom has to be drawn to you when she sees, and she's drawn to a million different things. What's going to draw a mom to Sybil's profile is not going to draw her to my profile. You know what I mean? It's different for everyone. But you have to be home study approved. You have to be willing to travel immediately. You know what I mean? Sybil was in another state and she was like, I can be there by 3. But my husband can go now. You know what I mean? They made a way. And so when you are in this journey, you say that we want a parent, you have to be willing to drop everything and move today if you got that call. And that is what adoption is. And it is the biggest, most beautiful sacrifice you will ever, ever, ever make in your life. But that's parenting. That's parenting. Once you do it, you
hmm,
realize that your entire life is just sacrifices every way. No doubt about it. I tried to get Sybil to get on here earlier. She was like, I got baseball, basketball. I got everything else on this Saturday. Can't do it. Can't do it. I'd love to, but I can't. My schedule is busy.
right,
And I'm not the
right.
basketball or baseball player. I can't do it though. You know what I mean? So just be encouraged that this can happen to you. When I tell you things on these videos, I am not lying. I have either lived it and I haven't made a video yet because, you know, I'm super duper private with my own life. But trust me when I tell you that this is reality. This right here, where she's talking, this is adoption reality. There's heartache and pain, but this part does happen, and it happens more times than you think. So stay positive, be hopeful, stay encouraged, and surround yourself with positivity. And this too can happen to you. But if this is your first time watching and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please push that button below. Also turn on your notifications. I upload new videos every other Thursday, and I will see you soon. Thank you, Sybil, so much for joining me, and we'll talk in a little bit. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.